If Arthur Morgan arrived in Warhammer 40K, Arthur Morgan sits alone on a cold rock, high above camp, and knows he is dying. The cough will not stop, and the fever burns his chest like a small, cruel fire. In his rough hand lies a strange pocket watch a traveller gave him, its glass cracked, its ticking wrong, showing stars instead of hours when he opens it. The man had said, "You want a way out that still means something. Think of where you need to be and pay the price." Arthur thinks, "I ain't done enough good yet," clicks the watch, and the world tears open in green light. The sky over Hive Decilium splits like an old wound. Millions of people look up from their work in the endless city. Slag workers on the lower levels wipe ash from their eyes. Clerks in tall data towers pause over glowing screens. Street kids in the mid-hive stop fighting over corpse starch and stare. Above them all, the clouds twist into a whirl of sickly emerald light, and a burning shape falls out of it. In a command bastion of the planetary defense forces, Vox operators shout and curse. Inbound object, no transponder. Not a drop pod, not a lander. Brace for impact. Marking grid 17 by 9, lower shrine district. Warning klaxons howl through the hive. Sirens wail. Heavy doors grind shut. The city, already a cage, tightens. Arthur hits the sky in a ball of green fire. He does not know the words for this place, but he feels the drop in his gut. Thin air rips past his face. His hat vanishes into the wind. He clutches the cracked watch in one hand, his revolver in the other, fingers white on the grip. His lungs burn, but not from sickness now, from speed and alien air. Below, a shrine square opens like a target. Statues of a stern crown man rise over a crowd of people in grey robes and oily work coats. They kneel and chant before a giant stone altar. Candles flicker. The air smells of incense and burned oil. A priest in red and gold lifts a book and speaks words Arthur does not know. They all look up. The green fireball screams down and slams into the square. Stone shatters. Candles fly. Bodies slam to the ground as a shockwave rolls out. Dust fills the air. A statue's arm cracks and falls, smashing the altar and the priest's pulpit. For a long second, there is only ringing silence. Then the dust clears a little. In the middle of the new crater lies a man in a torn blue shirt, brown leather vest, and beat-up boots. A rifle is strapped to his back. A revolver hangs at his hip. His face is lined and tired. Blood drips from a cut over one eye. He groans, coughs hard, and pushes himself up on one shaky arm. Arthur Morgan blinks at the broken square, at the towering hive walls, at the endless towers stabbing the clouds. "What in all hell?" he mutters, voice rough. The crowd screams. Some run. Some drop flatter and slam their heads to the tiles. Others stare with wide, terror-bright eyes. Above them, servo skulls, small, floating metal skulls with glowing lenses and humming machines, buzz closer to record this new thing. "Mutant," someone shouts. "Psyker," another cries, spitting the word like poison. Arthur hears none of it clearly. His head throbs. His chest feels tight. Wrong. He coughs again, and this time the sputum is dark. Boots pound against stone. A squad of soldiers rushes in from the edge of the square. They wear flak armor of dull green and carry long, blocky rifles. Their helmets hide most of their faces, but fear shows in their eyes. One of them, with captain stripes and a scar across her lip, raises a hand. "By order of the Decilium PDF, drop your weapon and lay face down," she shouts. Arthur squints. He understands almost none of the words, but the meaning is clear enough. Guns, shouts, authority. He has seen this dance before in 100 dusty towns. He slowly raises his empty hands, palms out. "Easy now," he says. "I ain't looking for trouble." Behind the soldiers, the priest drags himself up, blood on his robes. His face twists in rage and fear. "This is a sign," he roars. "A witch has fallen upon holy ground. Kill him before he blights us all." The crowd shudders. Some cheer. Some look sick. Arthur feels the change in the air. He hears the priest's tone, if not his words. He sees fingers tighten on triggers. He sees men and women who are one sharp breath away from firing. He also sees something else. In the alleys around the square, shadows move. Men in rag-wrapped armor and rusted plates creep closer. Their faces are hidden by plague masks made of leather and bone. Strange symbols are smeared on their gear in dried brown-green paint. They carry knives, crude guns, and heavy chains. Their eyes glow faintly in the dim, like fevered embers. Arthur knows ambush when he sees it. His fingers twitch toward his revolver, then stop. The soldiers in front, the cult in the back, the scared people in the middle. This is a powder keg. The first shot does not come from him. A robed man in the crowd, eyes wild, lifts a stub pistol and fires into the back of a soldier. The man falls screaming. Chaos erupts. Cultists howl and charge from the sides. They fire crude guns and swing chains. The crowd breaks. People trample each other in a blind rush to flee. The captain spins, swears, and fires back. Her squad forms a rough line, but they are outnumbered and surprised. Arthur moves. He drops to one knee, draws his revolver, and lets the world slow down. To him, it is a trick he has used for years. He calls it focus. Men he rode with once joked and named it dead eye. When he needs it, the world narrows and stretches. Sounds stretch and sink. Targets stand out clear as if marked in bright paint. Now, as screams rise and gunfire cracks, his pupils tighten. The green crack in his watch flares. Thin lines of red light trace paths from his gaze to heads and hands. He sees a cultist swinging a chain toward a kneeling child, another aiming a shotgun at the captain's back, a third pulling a grenade pin with his teeth. Arthur breathes in, chest burning, and marks them in his mind. Then he shoots. 6 shots roar like thunder in the close space. Each one lands true. A chain flies harmless. A shotgun falls. The man with the grenade drops before he can throw, the explosive rolling into a side alley and bursting in empty air. For a heartbeat, the cult charge stutters. Arthur staggers. The slow whirl snaps back. Sound slams in. His chest aches like he swallowed glass. His hand shakes. He coughs, hard, and tastes blood and something bitter, like rust and bile. The cultists scream louder and rush again. But now the soldiers have room to breathe. The captain snaps out orders. Hold the line, for the Emperor, protect the civilians. Laser guns spit red beams. Cultists fall. The crowd shoves past Arthur and the crater and flees down side streets. A masked man swings an axe at Arthur's head. Arthur ducks, drives his shoulder into the man's gut, and fires once up into his chest. Burning blood sprays his sleeve. Another cultist rushes with a jagged knife. Arthur kicks the man's knee sideways, hears the joint crack, and puts him down with a clean shot. His revolver clicks empty. Arthur swears and grabs the man's crude pistol instead. It is ugly and heavy, but it fires, and that is enough. He fights his way toward the soldiers, toward the thin line of organized fire. He reaches the captain's side just as a cultist lunges at her with a hooked blade. Arthur shoots the man through the wrist. Bones explode. The blade clatters. The captain finishes the attacker with 2 shots of her own and glances at Arthur with hard, shocked eyes. "Stay in front of me," he says between coughs. You got people to shout at." She does not understand the words, but she reads the tone. She nods once, tight. Together, they hold. In minutes that feel like hours, the surge breaks. The square fills with bodies. Smoke hangs in the air. Flames lick at broken banners and toppled icons. The priest stares at the blood on the stones and at Arthur's back, eyes full of hate and fear. Arthur leans against a fallen statue base, chest heaving. His vision swims. The cracked watch in his pocket is hot against his ribs. Codex note: first contact with the Outlander of Desilium was recorded during the Purge of Shrine Square 17, where he saved 112 citizens and 8 soldiers from cult assault. Later, in a fortified command post above the still-smoking district, the air smells of oil, sweat, and incense. Arthur sits on a metal bench, still in his torn clothes, but now with manacles on his wrists. A medici, some kind of doctor, has prodded his chest with cold tools and listened to his lungs with a box that hums. The man's face is pale. He mutters to a thin machine priest in a language Arthur does not know. The captain, now in a crisp uniform jacket over her armour, stands nearby. Her name is Mara Voss. Arthur learned this when she slapped a hand to her chest and said, "Captain Voss," very slow, while pointing at herself. He had tipped his hat, what was left of it, and said, "Arthur Morgan." Names are a start. Now, another figure enters the room, and the air seems to cool. He wears a long, dark coat with a high collar. A rosette of metal hangs at his chest, shaped like a stylized eye with a skull. His eyes are sharp, cold, and tired. At his side hangs a long pistol that hums faintly, and a sword covered in holy seals. "Inquisitor Varro Hale," Captain Voss says, straightening. "Primary ecclesiarchal agent on Desilium." Arthur does not catch all that, but he hears Inquisitor and feels the weight of it. This man walks like he owns fear. Varro studies Arthur for a long time before speaking. "You fell from the sky in a warp breach," he says. "No ship, no pod, no record. You fight like a trained killer, but you do not wear any badge of the Emperor. You speak a debased low Gothic, mixed with something I do not know. So, what are you?" Arthur shrugs a little, the chains clinking. "Mister, I ain't sure myself right now," he says. "Name's Arthur. I was somewhere else. Then there was light, and now I'm here." Varro's brow tightens. "Somewhere else?" Arthur nods. "Mountains, snow, men trying to kill me. Same old story. Then a man with strange eyes gives me a watch. Says I can go where I need to be. I thought about trying to do right, about folks I couldn't help, about giving what's left of me to something that might matter." He coughs again and wipes his mouth. "Then there was green fire and falling. You saw the rest." The medici shifts uneasily. "His lungs are wrong," the man mutters. "Not like any disease I know, but there is rot. Something is eating him from inside." Varro's gaze flicks to Arthur's chest. "You were already dying when you came here," he says. Arthur meets his eyes, tired but steady. "Been dying for a while," he says. "Just taking the long road." Captain Voss steps forward. "Sir, whatever he is, he saved my squad and those people," she says. "I saw him. 6 shots, 6 kills. Fast as any gunslinger from the Underhive legends. The cult would have taken the shrine without him." Varro does not look away from Arthur. "And perhaps they took the chance to smuggle in a more subtle weapon," he replies. "A living vector, a psyker, a demon wrapped in flesh." He steps closer. Arthur feels a pressure at the back of his eyes, like someone pushing against his thoughts. Varro's gaze sharpens. Tiny, invisible currents of psychic force probe at Arthur's mind. Arthur stiffens. His hand itches for his gun, but the chains bite his wrists. "Get out of my head," he growls low. Varro holds the gaze a moment longer, then steps back. "No warp taint," he says. "Not in the usual way, but something rode him here. Something old and hungry. The watch, perhaps." He nods to Captain Voss. "Keep him under guard. Feed him. Let the medici stabilize him as much as they can. He may be useful or dangerous. I will consult with the cathedral." Arthur snorts. "Story of my life," he mutters. "Useful or dangerous?" Voss glances at him, then at Varro. "Sir, we are stretched thin already. The cult has grown bold. Their symbols are everywhere. We barely hold the lower levels as it is. If he can fight..." Varro lifts a hand. "We will see. The Emperor teaches us that every tool has a purpose. Some tools are for building, some are for burning. For now, he is not to leave this level." He turns and leaves, coat flaring. Arthur watches him go, then looks at Voss. "Don't like him much," he says. Voss does not understand the words, but she hears the tone and gives a faint, grim smile. "Few do," she replies. "He keeps us alive, sometimes." Outside the fortress walls, the hive groans. Far above the smog, in orbit, ships slide into position. Sleek navy frigates and fat, ugly cargo haulers crawl across the void. Among them, a few shapes move that do not belong. Their hulls are pitted and bloated. Clouds of spores trail in their wake. Rot hangs off them like old skin. On a command bridge high above Desolium, Admiral Cora Dennick stares at the hololith. Green icons blink along the edge of the system. Unidentified vessels closing, a junior officer reports. No Imperial codes, hull patterns, corrupted. Machine spirits refuse to speak proper. Cora's jaw tightens. Alert the Inquisition. Raise system-wide alert level. And for the love of the throne, get me clean scans. The officer swallows. "Ma'am, I do not think any scan of those will be clean." Down in the hive, cult symbols bloom on more walls. A fly-shaped sigil drawn in foul, clotted paint. Piles of rotten offerings at sewer mouths. Whispered prayers to Grandfather and the blessed rot. The attack on Shrine Square was not random. It was a test. The test is over. The real game begins. Up to now, Arthur has fallen from his own dying world into a city of steel and faith, saved strangers from a cult, and earned the interest of both a hard captain and a colder inquisitor. Now the wider war around Desolium moves into view. Days pass, but the hive never sleeps. Arthur's cell is small, but it is less a prison now and more a bunk. The chains are gone, replaced by a heavy door with guards outside. He's been given simple grey clothes under his vest, a ration of bland food and work. Work, he understands. Captain Voss brings him into the training yards. She watches as he draws and fires the PDF's las pistols, then shakes her head and hands him back a solid slug thrower, more like what he knows. It is heavier than his old revolver, boxier, but kicks in a familiar way. He practices until the cough forces him to stop. "Your body is failing," the medici tells him one evening, in broken words. He taps the side of Arthur's ribs. "Disease, warp burn. I cannot cut it out. I can only slow it, if you rest." Arthur nods. "I ain't got much rest left in me," he says, "so I'd rather spend it doing something." He thinks of the watch, still in his pocket. He has tried to open it a few times since he arrived. Each time, the crack glows green, and a low noise fills his head, like whispering voices behind a door. Each time, he snaps it shut, heart racing. He knows a bad bargain when he feels one, but he also knows he has already paid. When the enemy hits again, they hit hard. Alarms blare across the hive. Voss kicks open Arthur's door in the night cycle. Gear, she barks, tossing him a flak vest and helmet. We are moving. He pulls the vest on, coughs into his sleeve, and follows. The lower hab blocks near the waste treatment stacks are under attack. As their chimera, an armoured troop carrier, rumbles through cramped streets, Arthur smells burning metal and rotting meat through the vents. Screams echo even through the engine roar. The rear ramp slams open and war spills in. Cultists swarm through the narrow way like a living tide. Their bodies are bloated and covered in sores. Flies buzz thick around them. Some carry guns, others carry pipes, chains, or simply rush with bare hands and teeth. Behind them, shapes stagger that are not quite men anymore, plague zombies, their skin sloughing off, eyes blank, driven by foul will. Voss's squad forms a firing line. Lays guns front, fire by ranks, keep them out of the habs, she shouts. Red beams of light stab out, cutting down the first rows. The smell of burned flesh fills the air. The zombies keep coming. Arthur moves to the side, where a gap opens. He draws both his new pistol and his old revolver, loaded and ready. His breath rasps. His vision swims for a moment. He opens the watch with his thumb. For a heartbeat, he sees the stars inside. A swirl of black and green, lines crossing like a map only mad gods could read. Pain spikes behind his eyes, but with it, focus floods him. Time slows. Every target stands clear. He steps forward. Dead eye. He marks the ones closest to the hab door, where panicked families push furniture to block the entrance. He marks the hulking zombie about to smash through a barricade of scrap. He marks a cultist lifting a strange rusted device that hums with a sick glow. He fires, and fires, and fires. Each shot lands where he tells it to. Knees explode, skulls crack. Strange devices shatter before they can fully charge. Around him, the line that was about to buckle holds. A little girl peeks over a barricade, eyes huge. She sees a thin man with a scarred face and a torn vest standing between her family and the monsters. She will remember this sight her whole life, even if she never learns his name. When the last cultist falls in this wave, Arthur slams the watch shut and drops to one knee, gasping. Blood flecks his lips. His hands shake so hard he can barely reload. Voss grabs his shoulder. "Are you wounded?" she demands. "I'm fine," he lies. "Just costs a little more each time." She frowns. "I do not like that thing," she says, glancing at the bulge in his pocket. "Whatever it is, but..." She looks at the saved hab door, at the people, at the smoking corpses. "It buys lives." Arthur nods. "Yeah," he says softly. "That's the trouble." Codex note. Subsequent analyses suggest that the Outlander's temporal distortion is a crude, uncontrolled brush with the immaterium, channeled through an unknown xenos or warp artifact. After the battle, they attend a war council. The room is high inside the hive, walls hung with banners and purity seals. A large table of glowing glass shows the hive in lines and colours. Red patches stain several districts. Green icons ripple near the edges. Admiral Dennick speaks via holoprojector, her image flickering in blue above one end of the table. "We have identified the fleet," she says. Heretic Astartes, Death Guard, plague marines sworn to the chaos god Nurgle. Their vessels are old, but their guns work. They have begun landing operations near the polar manufactorum. Arthur stands against a pillar, trying to follow. He has learned some words. Chaos, heretic, Nurgle. He knows death well enough. He watches faces instead of holograms. Voss stands with other officers. Varro Hale is there, arms folded. An armoured giant also stands at the table, a space marine, an Adeptus Astartes, His armor is the color of bone, stained with battle and stamped with a stylized winged skull. He towers over everyone, a living statue. "This is Brother Sergeant Cassian of the Angel's Penitent," Varro says. "His squad has been diverted here from other duties to assist in the defense." Arthur stares up at Cassian. The giant's face is pale and scarred, eyes like chips of stone. He inclines his head very slightly. "So this is the Outlander," Cassian says, voice a deep rumble. "The man who fell from the sky and shoots like a Legion marksman." "Just a man who's done more shooting than he'd like," Arthur replies, almost under his breath. Cassian's lip twitches, almost a smile. Almost. Varro taps the table. "The cult activity in the lower hive was not random," he says. "They were preparing the ground, summoning circles, taint in the water, whisper networks. They seek to turn this world into a garden for their god of decay. The fleet above is the hammer, the rot below is the handle." "Can we not simply blast them from the sky?" Admiral Dennick asks. "In time," Varro replies, "but their ships spread disease as they die. And Exterminatus, complete planetary purge, is not yet sanctioned." His gaze is hard. "I would prefer we bleed our enemies before we burn our own." A bishop in red, High Confessor Malkai, clears his throat. "The faithful suffer," he says. "We have reports of plague in 3 districts. Flesh boils, lungs rot, and yet the victims live on in agony. I propose we seal and cleanse those areas. Fire, blessed Prometheum, and nothing left to infect others." Arthur's jaw tightens. "Those areas are full of people," Voss says. "Workers, children. We can evacuate, then purge. We need time." "We do not have time," Malkai snaps. "Every hour, more souls are lost to corruption. We must cut out the infection, even if it means cutting flesh that might have been spared." Arthur steps away from the pillar. "You talk about burning whole parts of your town," he says slowly. "Like you're talking about cleaning out a barn." Several heads turn. Varro raises a brow. "You are not invited to speak, off-worlder," Malkai says coldly. Arthur ignores him and looks at Voss, then Cassian. "I seen sickness take folks," he says. "I seen what greed and rot do to a town. Sometimes you gotta do things you don't like, but you don't start with the torch. You start with getting people out, giving them a chance. If you treat them all like they're already dead, well, then you might as well be on the side of the bastards who made them sick." The room falls quiet for a moment. Varro's eyes narrow, but he does not look angry, only thoughtful. "Mercy versus survival," he says softly. A familiar song. Malkai slams a hand on the table. "Mercy to the doomed is cruelty to the whole," he says. "If we spare the infected, they will spread the rot. If we waste troops on hopeless evacuations, we weaken our line. The Emperor demands sacrifice." "And what do you demand?" Arthur asks, meeting his gaze. "Folks down there don't even know why they're coughing blood. They didn't choose this. Men like the ones making these choices did." "Watch your tongue," Malkai hisses. "Blame lies with chaos, with those who turn from the light." Arthur thinks of Dutch, of Micah, of all the men who made bad choices and dragged others with them. "Blame lies with men who use folks and throw them away," he says, "whatever pretty words they dress it up in." Cassian speaks at last. "Enough," the Space Marine says. His voice cuts through the room. "We are not here to trade insults. We are here to decide how many must die so that more may live." He looks at Arthur. "You speak of giving people a chance. In my wars, I have seen what happens when we give chaos a chance. Worlds burn. Sectors fall. There is wisdom in the Confessor's fire." Then he looks at Malkai. But I have also walked through cities we burned too fast. We killed those we might have saved. Duty is not only to victory, it is to proportion. We must measure cost. Varro nods slowly. Well said, he says. We will compromise. Evacuations will be attempted in the worst hit districts, but any sign of demon incursion, and we burn them without hesitation. Captain Voss, you will oversee extractions in Block 9 and 10. Brother Sergeant Cassian will support. The Outlander goes with them. Arthur blinks. Outlander, he repeats. Voss smiles faintly. They mean you, she says. Malachi frowns. This gunman is not under our oaths, he says. He is not sworn to the creed. How can we trust him with such tasks? Varro's gaze sharpens. He is dying, the Inquisitor says. His lungs rot with something like their God's gift. Yet he fights. He uses a weapon none of us fully understand. He fell from the sky in our hour of need. Either the Emperor sent him, or the enemy did. Either way, we learn by using him. Arthur lets out a dry laugh. Story of my life, he says again. You fancy types love finding uses for a man. Varro looks at him. What would you prefer? He asks. Arthur thinks for a moment. Given the choice, he says. I'd like to make sure what time I got left don't just go to waste. Maybe tilt the scales a little toward decent. Varro nods, as if that answer slots neatly into some inner puzzle. Then we are aligned in purpose, he says, for now. The alarm comes before they can finish planning. A Vox officer rushes in, face white. New contact, he gasps. Groundside, lower manufacturum district, warp readings off the charts. Astarte's signature, corrupted. Varro's head snaps up. Put it on the hololith, he orders. The table shifts. A new icon appears, sharp, red, edged in flickering green. Runes scroll beside it. Arthur cannot read them, but he can feel the tension in the room spike. Heretic Astartes, Cassian says. His hand tightens on the hilt of his chainsword. A champion, at least. Maybe more. Varro taps the icon. Name and mark, he demands. A tech adept, half metal and half man, hisses and clicks. Cross-referencing, pattern matches known warband, he says in a tinny voice. Designation, the Garden's Grief. Leader, Plague Marshal Gurak Villehand. Death Guard champion. Responsible for the fall of 3 hive worlds in the last century. Admiral Dennick's hollow flickers. He has landed in the manufactorum that feeds half this hive, she says. If he corrupts it, then every round of ammunition, every shell, every ration can carry plague, Varro finishes. He strikes at our ability to fight. Arthur watches the little red icon move. It feels like watching a wolf circle a herd. How bad is this fella? He asks Voss quietly. She glances at him. Bad enough that even angels die facing him, she says. Bad enough that if he wishes to kill you, he can, in ways that never let you die. Arthur's mouth goes dry. Varro's voice cuts in, calm but hard. This plague marshal is more than a brute, he says. He wears armor that drinks toxins and feeds him pain, like sweet wine. His god blesses him with a field of rot. Bullets corrode near him. Flesh decays at his passing. And he carries plagues that attack body and soul. We cannot treat him like the rabble in the lower hive. Arthur thinks of his own sick lungs. So he fights with sickness, he says. That is trick. Varro nods. In part. He also spreads despair. Those who face him often feel their hope peel away like skin. He whispers in minds. He tells them it is all useless, that giving up is easier. For a man already burdened with guilt. He looks at Arthur. He is a poison made to seep into every crack. Power scaling interlude. In the manufactorum district, the air itself is a weapon. Toxic fumes and fine dust coat every surface. For most people, it is already hard to breathe. When a champion of Nurgle like Guruk walks there, his presence thickens the air with invisible spores that eat lungs from the inside. His armor leaks tiny demons and living slime that corrode metal and jam guns. He carries a bell that rings in the warp, calling to every doubt and regret in nearby minds, making old wounds ache in both flesh and memory. A man like Arthur, whose body is already rotting and whose heart is heavy with past sins, is more vulnerable to this than any healthy soldier. The Manufactorum plan is simple, and that is what makes it hard. They gather in a smaller sealed chamber off the main war room. The glow table here shows only one district, the Manufactorum that feeds shells, las packs, and armor plates to half the hive. Pipes run through it like veins. Rail lines snake in and out. Tiny icons show worker habs stacked against the main complex. Varro Hale taps the center with a finger. Plague Marshal Gurak has dug himself in here, he says. He is not trying to hold ground. He is trying to change it. These vats, these smelters, these coolant towers, he will turn them into cauldrons for his god. Every round that leaves this place will carry corruption. Every mask, every filter, every drop of coolant will spread it wider. A hollow image of Gurak spins above the table. Fat, swollen armor of cracked green. A horned helmet. Flies swarm in frozen motion around him. Arthur stares at it. Man looks like a corpse in a can, he mutters. Cassian stands with helmet under one arm. His other hand rests on the hilt of his chainsword. If we strike with artillery, the Space Marine says, we risk rupturing his plague vats and spreading his gift through half the hive. If we do nothing, he will taint every shell and laspack in weeks. We cannot shell, and we cannot wait. And if we send in more troops, they will choke on their own lungs before they even see him, Voss adds. She points to coloured arcs. His rot field covers the central halls. Filters clog. Armour seals break. Men cough, panic and shoot wild. We tried that before you came. You saw the results in the lower stacks. Arthur nods. He remembers the dead, with swollen faces, the ones who did not even bleed right when they fell. So how do we hit him? He asks. Seems like he stacked the deck. Varro gives him a thin smile. We cheat, he says. We send in those who can last longest near him. Brother Sergeant Cassian and a hand-picked kill team. Captain Voss and a squad of her best, including you, Outlander. Small, fast, direct. No mass waves, no heavy shells. A knife, not a hammer. Malkai, the High Confessor, makes a noise of disapproval. And if they fail, he asks, if this plan falters, we waste our finest. The Manufactorum is lost. Then we must burn, and all this talk of mercy is meaningless. Arthur glances at him. You're real fond of talking about burning things you ain't stood inside of, he says quietly. Malkai's eyes narrow. And you are fond of judging from ignorance, he replies. I have seen worlds drown in plague. I have seen babies born with maggots in their eyes. Mercy for a handful, then doomed billions. Cassian lifts his hand. Enough, he says. Both of you speak truth from different angles. The Marshal must die. The Manufactorum must not become a plague engine. We cannot win by staying safe, nor can we call down fire on everyone without trying anything else. He looks down at Arthur. You wish to spend what life you have left to do right by folks, he says, using Arthur's own words. This is your chance. There are hundreds of thousands tied to this complex. Workers, families. If we succeed, they live a little longer. If we fail, they rot and spread rot. Arthur takes a slow breath. His chest crackles. "All right then," he says. "You show me where to point my gun." Varro nods. "Very well. You deploy in 1 hour. May the Emperor watch, and if he does not, may at least someone be taking notes." The Manufacturum district is a maze of metal and poison. Their chimera clanks along a rail tunnel, engines growling low. On the walls, warning symbols flash sick yellow under grime. Skulls, hazard signs, and now crude fly icons smeared over them. The air is thick and hot. Even inside the carrier, Arthur can taste rust and old smoke. He sits on a bench, helmet in his lap, old hat tucked inside it. Across from him, Voss checks her lasgun. Next to her, guardsmen sit stiff, faces tight behind rebreather masks. Between them and the ramp stands Cassian, already sealed in his bone armor, helmet in place now, eyes hidden behind dull lenses. "You still sure about this?" Voss asks Arthur through the vox in his ear. Her voice crackles with static. "Nope," Arthur says. "But we're going anyway." He fingers the watch in his pocket. It feels warmer the closer they get, like it knows there is work ahead. The chimera jerks to a halt. The ram slams down. Heat and stench wash in. They step into a cargo bay with a ceiling so high Arthur cannot see it through the smog. Conveyor belts crisscross the space like highways. Huge presses smash molten metal into shells with hollow booms. Lights flicker. Many hang dead, swinging from cords. Bodies lie everywhere. Some are workers in grey overalls, their faces bloated, mouths open in silent screams. Others are cultists, marked with fly sigils, torn apart by bullets or blade. Flies swarm so thick in places that the air seems to move in sheets. Voss gives hand signals. 2 squads peel off to secure sidelines. Arthur moves with her and Cassian toward the center, stepping over corpses. As they push deeper, the air grows thicker. Arthur's breath comes harder. Even through the filter, something slick and foul seems to slide down his throat. His chest tightens. He coughs once, twice. The second time he tastes rot. It is different from his old sickness, more alive. "Stay behind my field," Cassian says. He lifts a device, a small iron sensor, from his belt. Incense pours out, rich and sharp. The smell cuts through the stink of rot. This relic bends some of the corruption away. Not all, but enough. Arthur steps closer. The warmth from the watch in his pocket flares in answer, like it resents the clean smell. They reach the central hall. Here, the Manufacturum opens into a vast chamber. Vats bubble with green slime where coolant should be. Chains hang from gantries, some holding struggling forms. Workers twisted into living sacks of disease, moaning softly. At the far end, on a raised platform, stands Gurak. Up close, the Plague Marshal is worse than the Hollow. His armor is swollen and split in places, showing rotting flesh beneath. Tubes run from his back into the vats, pumping filth. A giant bell hangs from his shoulder, and a rusted scythe rests in his hand. Flies swarm so thick around him that they form a buzzing cloud. His head turns toward them. "Ah," comes a voice, low and wet, echoing off the metal. The fresh meat arrives, and the little candle from another sky. "I smelled you the moment you fell, Outlander." Arthur freezes. "You talking to me?" he calls, trying to keep his voice steady. Gurak laughs. It sounds like boiling fat. "Oh yes," he says. "You carry such lovely rot. Old, slow sickness and sharp warp burn in one soul. A perfect seedbed. My grandfather is most pleased." Lines of plague marines step out from behind vats. Their armor is like Gurak's, but less swollen. Rust, icons, dripping slime. They raise bolters, heavy guns that roar shells the size of Arthur's thumb. Cassian steps forward, chainsword roaring to life. For the Emperor, he bellows. His squad surges with him, bone armor smashing into green. Bolter fire turns the air into hurricanes. Men die. Even Space Marines fall, though slower than anyone else would. Voss shouts orders. Guardsmen break left and right, taking cover behind machinery and pouring less fire into the enemy. Their beams seem thin and small against the bulk of the Death Guard, but some find joints and lenses. Arthur's hands shake, but they know what to do. He drops behind a shell press and peeks out. The nearest Plague Marine stamps toward him, each step leaving slimy prints that smoke. Arthur brings up his pistol and fires at the lenses. The first shot cracks one. The second shatters it. The giant howls and fires blind, shells tearing into the roof. Arthur ducks, heart pounding. He cannot fight Gurak yet. The Marshal stands in the cloud of rot, bell tolling. Every ring sends a pulse of agony through Arthur's chest, like a fist squeezing his lungs. Memory rides the pain. Faces of the gang, the train job, the little boy in the burning house, all the times he failed. "You are so tired," Gurak's voice whispers in his head. "Your blood is thin. Your breath is short. Why fight? Lay down. Let the garden take you. No more guilt. No more pain. Just soft, green peace." Arthur grits his teeth. "Shut up," he snarls. He opens the watch. Time stretches. The bell's toll becomes a slow wave. Flies hang in the air like dust motes. Arthur's vision sharpens. Red lines trace from his gaze to hoses on Gurak's back, to exposed tubes, to small vents. He marks them. His chest hurts like someone is twisting a knife in it. The green inside the watch spills out around the edges, a faint haze. It mixes with the rot in the air, and for a moment, Arthur feels something try to crawl along it into him. He fires anyway. Bullets streak in slow arcs, each one cutting a hose or bursting a vent. Filth sprays. One line of shots hits the bell's chain. Another clips a rune on Gurak's chestplate. When the shots land, time snaps forward. The bell jolts. Its next toll is off-key, more a grind than a ring. Gurak staggers as one of his vat lines ruptures, slime gushing out onto the platform. He roars. "Impertinent insect," he bellows. "You dare scratch my gifts." Arthur slams the watch shut. Pain slams into him. He falls to one knee, coughing. This time, what comes up is green and black. Worms wriggle in it. He stares, horrified. His right arm goes numb from fingertips to elbow. The skin there darkens, veins raised and pulsing slow. He can feel them, thick and sluggish, as if something crawls along them. Gurak's laughter booms across the hall. "There it is," he croons. "My touch finds you easy, little wanderer. Your door is already open. Your toy," he points the scythe at the watch, "is a crack in your soul. Let me widen it. Let me in, and I will make your end gentle." Cassian slams into Gurak from the side. Chainsword teeth bite into corrupted armor, sending bits of metal and rotten flesh flying. Gurak swings the scythe. It scrapes across Cassian's chest, cutting deep grooves but not biting through fully. Cassian grunts. Black ichor splashes his armor and sizzles. Around them, the battle turns ugly. Guardsmen cough and fall. Some rip off their masks to suck in air, then scream as their throats blister. Others stand and fire even, as sores burst on their skin. Voss drags one coughing man behind cover and shoves a spare mask on his face, fingers shaking. "Marshal," one of the Plague Marines calls. "The vats will rupture. We must pull back." Gurak ignores him. He locks blades with Cassian, pushing him back step by grinding step. "I have waited centuries for such a prize," he rasps. "A soul from another story. A man full of regret. A toy that bends time. You are mine, Outlander. Kneel. and I will let this world rot softer. Stand, and I will peel it slow while you watch." Arthur braces his good hand on the floor. The numbness in his arm creeps higher. His breath rattles. He could let go. He could stand up, walk toward Gurak and simply stop fighting. No more pain. No more waking up knowing he failed too many people. He thinks of that girl behind the barricade, of Voss pulling men from the line, of Cassian standing with rot burning on his armor, still pushing. He thinks of his old world, of people he hurt and people he tried to save, of asking for one last chance to make it mean something. "No," he says, voice low but clear. "You don't get to decide how I end." He pulls the watch out. This time he does more than open it. He thumbs the cracked glass hard. It breaks under his skin. Green light pours out, not in a slow trickle, but in a flood. It washes over his hand, up his arm, into his chest. For a second, he feels as if he is falling again, between stars made of teeth. The whole hall slows, not just for him, for everything. Bolter shells crawl through the air like drifting stones. Smoke is a frozen cloud. Cassian's chainsword teeth hang mid-spin. Gurak's bell vibrates in a smear of motion, but no sound yet. Arthur staggers to his feet. The green light inside him fights with the black rot. They twist together in his veins, burning. He can feel each second like a hot nail. Every step feels like it costs a month of life. He walks across the floor between frozen drops of slime. He reaches Gurak. The Plague Marshal's helm slowly turns, as if sensing him even in this slowed world. Arthur can see maggots in the eye lenses. He wants to be sick. He presses the broken watch against the runes on Gurak's chest. "Take a little trip, you bastard," he whispers. He twists. Time snaps in the other direction. For one instant, everything surges forward at once. Bolter shells hit. Vats rupture. The bell tolls, not once but 100 times in a single heartbeat. Green light explodes from the watch and rams into Gurak's armor, through his runes, into whatever passes for his soul. Gurak screams. It is not a human sound. It is the howl of a storm over a graveyard. His scythe drops. Armor plates buckle inward, as if crushed by invisible hands. The cloud of flies burns away in a flash of white gold. Every cultist in the hall clutches their head and shrieks. Arthur is flung back like a rag doll. He slams into a console and feels something in his back. Crack. The watch shatters into ash in his hand. The green light rushes out of him, ripping bits of himself with it. For a second, he sees two worlds. One is the manufactorum, filled with smoke and screaming. The other is open plains under a red sun, his old world, and men he knew ride across it. Dutch, Hosea, John. They reach out to him with pale hands. "Come on, son," Hosea says gently. "You done enough." Arthur reaches, then stops. He looks back, in that half place, at a little girl in a hive hab, at Voss, at Cassian, at people he has not even met yet, on worlds he does not know. "Not yet," he says. The planes tear away. He crashes back into his body. Pain crushes him. His arm burns with new fire. His lungs feel like they have been coated in glass dust and acid. He tries to breathe and coughs up a sheet of black-green clots. On the platform, Gurak is on his knees. His armor is cracked open. Filth pours out onto the floor, then burns away in pale flame. Underneath the rot, for a moment, Arthur sees a face. It is not monstrous. It is an old, tired man's face, ruined by centuries of disease and hate. "You could have rested," Gurak wheezes. "You could have joined the garden. Fool." Cassian steps forward. "For the crimes of treachery, plague and murder beyond counting," the Space Marine says, "I send you to whatever judgment waits even for you." He brings his chainsword down. Gurak's head rolls. The bell cracks in half. Its next toll is a hollow, broken sound, then silence. Codex note: Death of Plague Marshal Gurak Valhan recorded under Angel's Penitent Engagement Log 7781, Decilium 3. Estimated reduction of sector-wide Nurgle threat by 0.013%. Sacred fire washes through the hall a few minutes later. Not from flamers, from men in red robes carrying relics and censers. Priest chant. Incense pours over machinery and corpse piles. Servo skulls spray blessed chemicals. The stink of rot slowly gives way to smoke and oil. Arthur lies on a stretcher, breathing in short, sharp gasps. His right arm is wrapped in bandages that pulse faintly green under the cloth. The medic's face is drawn. You burned the infection with something. I have no words for it, he tells Voss. It is not like any plague I know, nor like pure warp corruption. It is a twisted mix. If we cut his arm off, it might slow it. It will not stop it. Then don't cut it off, Arthur rasps. I still need it. You also need to live, the medici snaps. That stunt you pulled may have cost you years, decades. Arthur wheezes a laugh. Doc, I didn't have decades anyway. He closes his eyes for a moment. In the darkness, he sees the plane again, the red sun, the reaching hands. But now there is something else. A faint golden light far off, like a city on a hill. It pushes back at the red. He hears a voice. It is not words, not really, just a feeling, a sense of being seen by something vast and distant. It is not warm, not kind, but it is steady. It says, not yet, work remains. He opens his eyes. You see that? He asks Voss. She frowns. See what? Nothing, he says. Just saw that I ain't done. Later, back in the command bastion, the argument begins. Varro stands over a slate covered in reports. Malkai paces like a caged animal. Voss leans against a wall, armor still dirty. Cassian stands silent, a heavy presence. You should have let him die with the Marshal, Malkai says. Now we have a man half touched by pestilence and the warp, a walking fault line. We should burn him and scatter his ashes from the spires. We also have a man who saved the Manufactorum and everyone it feeds, Voss snaps. If he had not forced whatever he forced through that cursed trinket, Gurak would still stand. We would be choking on flies. And now his infection is mixed with warp energy, the Medici adds quietly. I do not know what that will do. To him, to those around him. Varro rubs his temple. The Emperor does not waste tools, he says. He also does not leave dangerous relics unjudged. The watch is gone, but its mark is not. The Outlander is now the pivot. We cannot decide his fate here. Cassian raises his head. Then where? He asks, though they all know the answer. Varro looks up. To Terra, he says. To the Golden Throne itself. If the Outlander is a gift, the Emperor will use him. If he is a trap, the Emperor will end him. We are ants arguing over a bolt of lightning. Malachi bristles. You presume much, Inquisitor, he says. Do you think you can simply ask the throne such questions? The High Lords will not even see this as a problem until it eats a planet. Varro cuts in coldly. We go as an inquisitorial petition. I have the seals. I have the right to request judgment. And I have the data. He taps the slate. Gurak's death. The Manufactorum's near fall. The Outlander's actions. The strange warp signature. He looks at Arthur, who stands in the doorway now, supported by Voss. Arthur hears the word terror and does not know its meaning, but he hears the weight. You talking about dragging me somewhere else again? He asks. Varro nods. To the heart of our realm, he says, to the seat of our dying god king. You wish to not waste what you have left. Very well. Let the highest judge decide how to spend you. Arthur snorts, then coughs hard, leaning on Voss until the fit passes. "Figure I ain't in a place to argue much," he says. "But if I go, I don't go locked in a box like some cursed thing. I stand, I walk, I choose what I can." Varro studies him, then nods once. "On the ship, you will be under guard but not caged," he says. "If you become a danger, we act. You know this." Arthur lifts his damaged arm. The veins glow faint green under the skin now, like embers. "I'm already a danger," he says. "Question is who I pointed at." Cassian steps forward. "I will escort him," the Space Marine says. "My squad is blooded but not broken. We can guard one man, and I have seen him choose. He chooses hard roads. For now, that is enough." Malkai scowls. "Mark my words, this is folly," he says. "You are taking rot to the throne itself." Varro's gaze is ice. "If the throne cannot handle one dying outlaw, then our empire is already dead," he says. "Prepare a fast frigate. We leave within the day." The warp is worse than any storm Arthur has ever seen, and he cannot see it. He only feels it. The ship, the Sainted Resolve, shudders as it leaves real space. The void outside the small port in his cabin tears into sick colors, then into a swirling nothing. Klaxons blare once, then fall silent. The captain's voice speaks calm words on the Vox. The Geller field, the bubble that keeps the ship safe from the madness outside, hums like a deep, steady drum. Arthur sits on his bunk, back against the wall, watching the not space outside. It hurts his eyes if he stares too long. Shapes move out there that might be shadows, or teeth. He fingers the bandages on his arm. The glow under his skin has dimmed but not gone. He is not alone on the voyage. Cassian visits often, armor leaving small dents in the floor. Sometimes he removes his helmet and sets it aside, revealing the scarred face, the tattooed symbols of his chapter. Other times, he stays fully sealed, especially when warp storms shake the ship. Once, the ship's confessor, a thin woman named Sister Galeen, comes too. She wears black and white, with a symbol of a winged skull over her heart. Her eyes are sharp but not cruel. They talk in simple words, because Arthur does not have room in his head for fancy ones now. "You feel it, don't you?" Galeen asks one day, as the walls creak with far-off noise, the presence pressing at the edges. Arthur nods. "Feels like riding with a bad gang," he says. "You know some of them are going to try and stab you in your sleep, but you need the speed." Cassian gives a small smile at that. "An apt picture," he says. "The warp is our only road between stars. It is also where all the worst things hide." Galeen folds her hands. "The Emperor is our light in it," she says. His mind pushes back the dark. His throne blaze makes a path for ships. It is why we can even attempt this journey. Arthur looks out the port again. "You ever ask if it's worth it?" he asks. "All this fighting, all this dying. You hold on so tight to what you got, you squeeze the life out of it. That's what it looks like to me sometimes." Cassian's gaze is steady. "Worth is a human word," he says. "The xenos gods and chaos never ask about it. They eat, they grow, they twist. We ask if it is worth it because we are human. That is our curse and our gift." Galeen nods. "Without questioning, we are machines," she says. "Without faith, we are dust. We walk between." "And me?" Arthur asks. "Where do I walk? I ain't from your world. Your emperor didn't watch over me. If he had, a lot of folks I knew might not be dead." Galeen looks at him with something like pity. "Maybe he did, in ways we do not see," she says. "Or maybe he did not, because your world was not his. But he sees you now. You do not fall into this war by chance." Arthur snorts. Folks say that a lot, he says. That things happen for a reason. Sometimes the reason is just that men are greedy and fools. Cassian's eyes soften, just a little. And yet you chose to stand in front of Gurak, he says. You chose to refuse his offer. You chose to hurt yourself to stop him. No god forced your hand. That choice is why we are taking you to the throne, Arthur Morgan, to see what can be made from a man who chooses like that. Arthur looks at his glowing arm. Or what needs to be killed, he says. Or that, Cassian agrees. The attack comes on the 4th day in the warp. Alarms scream. The ship lurches so hard Arthur falls off his bunk. Loose gear flies. The Geller field hum deepens into a low roar. A voice on the Vox cries, "Breach! Warp intrusion on Deck 6. All hands to defense stations." Cassian is on his feet in an instant. "Stay here," he tells Arthur. "Seal the door. If something comes through, shoot it until it stops moving, or you do." Then he is gone, sprinting down the corridor, armor thudding. Arthur stares at the closing door. The walls shiver. The light flickers. A faint sick smell seeps into the air, like the manufactorum but sharper. He does not stay put. He grabs his pistol, slams a fresh magazine in, and pulls on his vest. His boots thud in the hall as he follows where Cassian went, wheezing but moving fast. He has been through too many ambushes to sit and wait. He reaches an intersection and stops dead. The corridor ahead is wrong. The metal walls bulge as if breathing. Rust blooms and crawls like fast-growing mold. The light is greenish, pulsing. At the far end, a door has burst inward, and beyond it, grass. Not real grass. A floor of seething wet plant matter. Flowers that open and close like mouths. Vines that twitch. A figure stands there, hat tipped low, coat flapping in a wind that does not touch Arthur. It is him, or almost him. The mirror. Arthur is taller, broader, and his skin has the soft, waxy look of a corpse. Flies buzz around him. His eyes are bright, merry, and wrong. His vest is marked with fly sigils. In his hand, he holds a rusted revolver that drips green fluid. "Well now," the mirror drawls. "Ain't we a sorry sight?" Arthur lifts his gun, hands shaking. "What are you?" he asks. "Why, I'm you, of course," the mirror says with a grin. "The you that didn't keep fighting past sense. The you that took the easy kindness. I said yes to the garden. I stopped beating myself up for all I did. I let Grandfather Nurgle wash it all away." The vines behind him sway. Shapes move among them. Men like Gurak, but wearing cowboy hats, their faces half rotted. They tip their hats in mocking greeting. Arthur's gut twists. "You're a damn nightmare," he says. The mirror laughs. "That's one word for it," he says. "But look at it this way. Out there?" He jerks his thumb toward the hull. "It's all pain. All the time. Folks like you die slow and hard, and it don't mean much in the end. In here, in the garden, we got peace. We got acceptance. We got a place for every rot, every regret. You don't have to carry it alone." He takes a step forward. The vines creep along the floor toward Arthur's boots. "You think you're helping these people," the mirror goes on. "You think refusing the gift was noble. But you're spreading another kind of hurt. You keep this empire going. You keep the guns running. You help them hold onto a life that's mostly suffering. Why not give them a clean fever, a soft melt into mulch? Why not end it right?" Arthur's finger tightens on the trigger. Images flash in his head. The manufactorum, Desoleum's crowded habs, his old camp, starving families, men driven to crime because the world left them nothing else. Is he just keeping the wheel turning? "Don't listen," a voice says behind him. Arthur glances back. Galeen stands in the hall, clutching a small wooden symbol of the Aquila. Her face is pale, but her eyes are steady. "It is a lie wrapped in half-truth," she says. "Yes, this world is cruel. Yes, many suffer. But giving them to pestilence is not mercy. It is giving up our duty to try. The Emperor does not promise ease. He promises only a harder road that still leads somewhere other than a pit." The mirror rolls his eyes. "Listen to yourself," he says. "Hard road, duty, pain. You think that makes you holy. It just makes you stubborn." He looks at Arthur again. "You ain't holy," he says. "You're tired. You're sick. You're scared you ain't done enough to make up for what you did. I'm telling you, friend, you can stop now. Walk with me. We'll spread a little soft green over all this steel. Folks will thank us in their last breaths." The vines reach Arthur's boots. They feel warm, comforting, in a terrible way. His sick arm throbs in time with them. For a heartbeat, he imagines sinking into that green, letting it eat his lungs so he never has to cough again. He thinks of Hosea's voice, of John's boy, of the girl in the hab, of Cassian marching into filth without complaint, of Voss refusing to call fire down on people she could still save. He shoots. The bullet hits the mirror in the chest. Rotten flesh bursts. A cloud of flies explodes outward and freezes. Time stutters. Not like before, not his doing. It is something else. The air tastes like pennies and incense. Light shifts from green to pale gold. For a heartbeat, Arthur sees another shape over his mirror's shoulders. A giant man on a throne of wires and gold. A dying sun chained in a dark palace. Eyes closed but mind blazing like a storm. It presses down the vines like a foot on weeds. It burns the flies without heat. The mirror snarls, flesh bubbling. "You think he cares about you," he spits. "You think you're anything but a nail to him." Arthur coughs, spits blood, and smiles a little. "I don't know what he cares about," he says. "I know what I care about. That's enough." The vines shrivel. The corridor walls groan as rust retreats like a film running backward. The mirror staggers back into the doorway of his sick garden. Beyond him, the warp churns, full of hungry shapes. A voice without sound speaks in Arthur's bones. "Reach the throne." The mirror hears it too. He flinches as if struck. "No," he hisses. No, you ain't taking him. He's mine." He lunges. Cassian slams into Arthur from the side, knocking him clear. Bolter rounds a roar down the corridor from behind the Marine. Other Astartes join him, firing into the garden. Each shot burns white in the golden light. The garden tears. The doorway twists like paper in fire. The vines scream as they burn. The mirror clutches at the frame, flesh peeling off his bones. "You'll crawl to us in the end," he howls. "When they break you, when you see it doesn't matter." The last of him vanishes in a burst of sick light. The hallway snaps back to metal and dim lamps. The smell of rot is gone, replaced by hot metal and sweat. Arthur lies on the floor, chest heaving. Galeen falls to her knees, clutching her Aquila and whispering prayers. Cassian stands over them, armor smoking slightly. "What in all hell was that?" Arthur gasps. "A test," Galeen whispers. A whisper from Nurgle's garden. "A mirror of your worst thought." Cassian nods once. "A warning," he says, "and a sign. The Emperor is watching. He wills you to stand before him. That is rare." Arthur laughs weakly. "Lucky me," he says. "Not luck," Cassian says. "Burden." The rest of the voyage passes under that word. Burden. Arthur sleeps in fits. When he dreams, he sees two paths, the soft green garden and the hard golden light. His arm's glow shifts from sickly green to a strange mix of green and gold, like rot and sun locked in a fight. He spends hours in the ship's chapel, even when no one else is there. He sits under statues of saints he does not know, men and women in armor, in robes, holding swords, books, or tools. He looks at their stone faces, all carved with pain and purpose. Galeen sits with him sometimes. You don't have to know their names, she says, only that they chose to stand when it would have been easier to fall. Arthur nods. Feels like that's all I've been doing for months, he says. Back home. Here. Standing, falling, standing. Again. Galeen looks at him. That is more than most, she says. When they reach the Sol system, even the stars seem to change. Arthur stands at a port again as real space folds back in. Ahead, a bright, harsh sun burns. Around it, countless ships swarm. Some are larger than any city he has seen, flying cathedrals of metal and light. Stations ring planets like iron halos. There, Cassian says, pointing. Arthur follows his hand. At first, Terra looks like just another world, covered in cloud and brown land. Then the ship's systems magnify the view. He sees the scars, vast plates of armor over continents, seas turned to black glass, titanic towers that rise from ground to sky. Near the largest of those towers is a glow. A soft golden haze covers a whole region, like dusk held in place. Lightning flickers in it, but slow. That is where the throne is. Holy Terra, Galeen whispers. Seat of the Emperor. Arthur swallows. Looks tired, he says before he can stop himself. Galeen smiles faintly. So is the man upon it, she says. So are we all. The sainted resolve crawls closer under the guns of an Imperial Navy bastion. Vox hails crackle. Varro seals and codes buy them passage, slowly. They dock into a vast orbital station, itself a small city. From there, they descend. Arthur rides in a sealed shuttle with Cassian, Varro, and a squad of silent figures in gold armor who join them part way. The gold-armored men are huge, as big as or bigger than Cassian, but their armor is smooth and perfect, crowded with symbols. Their faces are hidden behind crested helms. Custodes, Varro says quietly when he sees Arthur staring. The Emperor's own guard. Each one is worth a company of Astartes. Arthur shuts his mouth. Next to the custodes sit hooded women with pale faces and dead eyes. When they move, Arthur's sick arm prickles. The warp scar in him seems to curl away. Sisters of Silence, Varro adds. Blanks. They carry a void where the warp should be. Do not stare too long. It is discomforting. Arthur nods. He already feels like his thoughts are quieter near them. Too quiet. Like a saloon after someone shoots the piano. The shuttle breaks through thick grey cloud. The palace spreads below them. It is not a single building. It is a continent of spires, walls, courtyards, guns and towers. Rivers of people and machines move along its sides like veins. Giant statues rise from plazas, some so tall that their heads vanish into smog. The closer they get, the smaller Arthur feels. He has stood before big things before, mountains, storms, armies. None of them felt like this. This is old weight. This is the grind of 10,000 years of war made stone. The shuttle lands in a vast courtyard. White marble flags the ground, cracked in places by age but still clean. Lines of soldiers in bright armor stand at attention. Banners hang from walls, showing the double-headed eagle of the Imperium. A choir somewhere sings a low, steady song. The ramp lowers. Arthur walks down between gold giants and silent blanks. Red-robed priests swing censers. The air smells of incense, blood, and ozone. His boots sound too loud on the stone. At the far end of the courtyard, a huge door stands open, flanked by more custodes. Beyond it, A hall stretches, lined with columns topped by statues. It seems to go on forever. From this point, Varro says quietly, we speak less. We are heard in more ways than one. Arthur nods. His heart thuds. Every breath hurts. His arm glows faint under his sleeve. He steps into the hall. The sound of his own steps fades. Everything becomes soft. His vision tunnels. The world narrows to the path ahead. He feels pressure in his skull, a sense of vast attention. He does not see the Emperor, not fully. He sees flashes. A throne bigger than any throne has a right to be. Cables thick as trees. A man's shape, withered and still, yet wrapped in a corona of gold that is not just light, but thought. In his head something opens. Memories spill out. His childhood, his first gun, the Van der Linde gang, the bank jobs, the sick nights in the swamp, the snow on the mountain, the dying on the ridge, the man with the watch, the green light, Desaleum, Gurak, the mirror in the warp. They rise and fall as if someone flips through them. Arthur clenches his jaw. He wants to shout, to pull them back, to say, those are mine. But he cannot move his mouth. His body stands still, hands at his sides. Then, under all the fear, he feels something else. He feels how small he is. Not in a crushed way, in a clear way. Like standing on a cliff and seeing how far the land goes. He feels that every person is small. Even Cassian, even Varro, even the Custodes, even Gurak was small. Even the High Lords, all small under something bigger. In that sense, the Emperor's mind speaks. You are a man who chose. The words are not sound. They are understanding. You chose to sin, to kill, to steal, to lie. You chose also to protect, to repent, to hurt yourself, to stop others hurt. You chose to stand when an easy fall called to you. Arthur wants to argue, to say he did not repent soon enough, that too many died because he stayed too long with bad men, that he broke people before he tried to fix anything. The mind hears that too. You are not clean, none are, but you choose. In a galaxy where so many let others choose for them, that is rare. Images flood him, worlds in flames, tyrannid swarms eating cities, orcs roaring on battlefields, Eldar weaving plans that cut human lives like threads, chaos gods squatting in the warp, feeding on fear and hate and pain. He sees a different set of images overlay them. Small acts, a guardsman dragging a wounded comrade to cover, a hive mother sharing her last ration with her child, a tech priest keeping a failing reactor stable for 1 more hour so a transport can leave, a priest holding a dying man's hand so he does not go, alone. Choice, the mind says. That is the only coin that matters. Arthur senses that this mind has killed more than he could imagine. Ordered deaths beyond number, burned worlds, broken suns. All for one goal, keep humanity alive a little longer against everything that wants it gone. You do not need to love me, the thought says. You do not need to worship. You need to choose. If I give you a place in this war, will you take it, knowing it will hurt you and others, but that doing nothing will hurt more? Arthur's throat works. He cannot speak, but he thinks as hard as he can. I ain't ever been a good man, but I can try to be less of a bad one. If there's something useful to do with what's left of me, I'll do it. Long as you ain't asking me to stop seeing folks as folks. For a moment, the golden light tightens around the sickness in his arm. It hurts like fire and ice. The green glow flares, then dims. It does not vanish. It changes. Lines of it twist into new patterns bound by faint bands of gold. Limits, the mind says. You will not be my angel. You will not be my son. You will not be free. You will be a nail I hammer where needed. Arthur's old outlaw pride stirs. I've been used as a tool enough, he thinks. If I'm your nail, I still get to choose where I bite. There is something like amusement, cold but real. We will see, the mind says. The pressure lifts. Arthur sways. The hall snaps back into focus. He is on his knees. His hands press into the stone. His breath comes in harsh pulls, but it is a little clearer. His chest still hurts, but not with the same crushing weight. Varro stands a short distance away, head bowed. Cassian is on one knee, helmet off, face wet with sweat. Galeen, allowed this far by grace, is prostrate on the floor. One of the custodes steps forward. Inquisitor Varro Hale, the gold giant says. His voice is deep and clear. The throne has weighed your petition. The Outlander is not to be destroyed. He is to be bound. A mandate will be given. Arthur raises his head, vision swimming. Bound how? He croaks. The custodes looks down at him. You will be told, he says, in simpler words you can carry. For now, know this. You walk away from this hall alive. Few do, after such a gaze. Galeen lets out a breath like a sob. Cassian smiles faintly, relief touching his hard features. Varro just looks at Arthur with a mix of curiosity and a trace of awe. Congratulations, Outlander, he says softly. You have just argued with a god and lived. Arthur wipes blood from his lip and pushes himself to his feet. I've been arguing with men who think they're gods my whole damn life, he says. This one just listens louder. Power scaling interlude Deshaun. From this point on, Arthur's warp scar is leashed. The Emperor's touch has turned the wild hole in his soul into a narrow channel. He can still slow time in short bursts and push it hard in a single desperate shove. But each use now costs him clear measures, heartbeats shaved from his life, fresh pain in his lungs, and flares of the bound Nurgle rot that want to break free. He cannot open new breaches, cannot travel between worlds by will, and cannot blast foes like Gurak without tearing himself apart. His role is not to reshape the war, but to tilt single moments, a shot here, a saved life there, a small weight on the scale in a universe that measures everything in blood. They give Arthur a small room deep in the palace and tell him to rest. He lies on a narrow bed with a view of a stone wall and a sliver of grey sky far above. His arm aches in slow waves. His chest feels raw, but he can breathe a little easier than before. He stares at the ceiling. He does not sleep. At some point, time blurs. The murmur of distant choirs fades. The weight of stone around him falls away. When he looks again, he is no longer in the room. He stands in a wide, empty space. There is no floor, yet his boots rest on something. There is no sky, yet a dim light shines from everywhere. In front of him, the shape of the throne looms, but softer now, less blinding. The figure upon it is half in shadow. Arthur does not fall to his knees this time. He just stands, hands at his sides, hat in one hand, and waits. The mind touches him again. You asked not to waste what is left, it says without words. Very well. See the ways you might spend it. The empty space changes. First, he sees a mountain he knows. Snow whips around him. He hears wind howl, horses snort, men shout. The camp is there, the shacks and the fire pits. Dutch strides through it, full of plans and lies. Hosea sits by a fire. John walks past with a rifle. Arthur stands at the edge watching. This is back, he says. His voice sounds small in all that snow. Yes, the mind says. The first path. Return. He sees himself stumble into camp, coughing. He sees faces turn, shock, anger, fear. Dutch smiles wide and false. Hosea frowns. Some things play out the same as before. Some small things change. Arthur speaks harder truths earlier. He shoves back at Dutch more. He drags John out faster. For a while it seems better. Then the picture shifts. His cough hits faster, sharper. The green gold light in his arm flares. He collapses sooner than he remembers. Without his full strength, some jobs go wrong. Some people die who once lived. Others live who once died. The line of cause and effect twists like a rope. Time is not a toy, the mind says. You fell out of it. To fall back in with what you carry now bends it until it cracks. Arthur sees it, cracks, moments that shiver and split. 2 versions of a scene, then 3, trying to exist at once. A river trying to run in 3 beds at the same time. The more he tries to fix things, the worse the break gets. In some lives, the gang dies smaller. In others, they destroy towns on the way out. In one, the whole country burns in a bigger fight as their crimes spiral. Threads tangle and snap. At the edge of it all, he sees Decilium. It flickers. In some lines, it exists. In others, it does not. Sometimes it dies under plague. Sometimes it burns in a different war. Gurak lives in half of them. This is the risk of your return, the mind says. You have already been pulled from your river. To throw you back into it with strange waters in your veins will poison many banks. Some you know, many you do not. Arthur watches Hosea die in 6 different ways. He watches John, Abigail and Jack live in some lines, starve in others, vanish in some. He watches his own faces, old and young, dying on ridges, in jails, in sickbeds, under bullets. He grips his hat hard. All that hurt for what? He says quietly. For me to feel better about what I did. For me to try and patch my story. That is one truth, the mind says. The other is that you might lessen some pain in one place while raising it in others. You cannot see every rip. Even I cannot see all. I am not what I was. The snow fades. The second picture rises. Now Arthur stands on a rusted bridge over a hive abyss. Below, lights blink in a shaft so deep the bottom is smoke. Above, ships move through fog. His arm glows bright green gold. His lungs feel stronger. There is a weight at his hip he knows is power. He sees himself moving through cities and war zones. He is alone. No inquisitorial seal on his chest. No chapter badge. No heraldry. People learn a name, the Outlander. Some say he is a saint. Others say he is a witch. He appears in the middle of battles, slows time, tilts the outcome, then vanishes again. He shoots corrupt governors. He saves cult victims. He breaks some orders and obeys others only when they fit his code. For a while, it feels good. He answers to no one. When someone like Malkai says burn them all, he simply does not show up. When a planet begs for help, he chooses which side he thinks is most human, then takes it. Then the picture darkens. The Inquisition hunts him in some places. Different factions claim him as a symbol. Rebel groups say, the Outlander fights the tyrants. Imperial loyalists say, no, he fights the heretics. Cults say, he is a sign that one man can shape fate alone. Fights break out in his name. He did not start the cults. He did not ask for the banners. But they rise all the same. He watches as his own image, hat, gun, glowing arm, gets painted on walls alongside the Aquila or over it. On one world, kids wear cheap hats and pretend to be him while they throw rocks at soldiers. On another, a warlord wears a fake outlaw vest and says, like the Outlander, I stand outside their laws. In the warp, hungry things pay attention. A man who moves outside all chains, the mind says, draws eyes. Not just mine. The gods of the warp love a free piece on the board. So do the xenos. They reach out. They offer you easier roads, They offer you ways to tip the balance more. They whisper, you can fix it all if you just break this one more law. Arthur sees himself older, harder. He still shoots bad men. He still saves some kids. But his lines blur. He cuts down entire squads because one carried a demon in his thoughts. He walks away from a plague town because saving it would cost too much time. He needs for a bigger fight elsewhere. He becomes a storm, not a man. He watches a small war start because two sides both claim his last act proved their cause was right. So I become another excuse, he said. His voice is flat. Free agent, the mind says. Maximum reach, maximum risk. Your pride would grow. Your line would fray. You would still save some. You would also break much. The bridge fades. He stands now in an office. It is small by palace standards, but big by any other. Maps of sectors line the walls. Shelves hold skulls with metal eyes, glowing faint. A desk holds guns, seals, a hat, a worn leather notebook. He sees himself there, older, coughing more, but standing. His chest bears an inquisitorial rosette, but it hangs from a leather thong, not a gold chain. His vest is cut to take a carapace plate under it. His hat carries a small, simple aquila pin above the brim. He is not alone. In one vision, Voss stands at his side, now wearing the rank of colonel, scars on her face. In another, Galeen travels with him, holding her aquila, giving last rites to those he cannot save. In a few glimpses, even Cassian or another angel penitent appears, stepping out of drop pods onto war-torn worlds with him. Sanctioned servant, the mind says, bound to my law through my agents. Given a narrow field, given tools, given chains. Arthur watches himself on this path. He arrives on worlds with seal and hat both. Sometimes people spit at the seal and trust the hat. Sometimes the other way around. He sits in war councils and says, we try to get them out first. Sometimes he wins that argument. Sometimes he loses. He helps order purges when there is no other way. He insists on evacuations when there is. He watches the scene. Malchai, or someone like him, demands fire on a district. Arthur pushes back. They argue. When the evidence shows full demon incursion, he nods, puts a bullet in his own hope, and signs the order. Later, he walks through the ashes and says the names of those he spared in other places. He cannot stop all the burning. But in the pictures, he slows it, narrows it, turns burn 3 hives into burn 1 block, more often than not. He becomes a lever in rule-bound machinery. Sometimes he acts as judge and executioner on corrupt commanders who use the emperor's name to feed themselves. Sometimes that gets him reprimanded, even hunted by other inquisitors. He keeps going anyway. Your reach is less, the mind says. You cannot go anywhere you wish. You must answer to oaths. You must carry seals and follow rules you may hate. But you work with others. You shape more than a single second. You shape patterns. Arthur watches one more picture. A small boy in a hive, limp from illness, gets lifted into a shuttle because Arthur argued one more time for just one more load. A factory worker on a different world does not drink tainted water because Arthur forced a lazy governor to spend money on filters instead of parades. A squad of guardsmen live because he stood in front of them for 6 extra heartbeats, slowing bullets they never even saw. Each act is tiny next to burning suns and dead worlds, but there are many of them. So, the mind says, 3 paths. Return to your past river and tear strange holes in many banks. Walk as a free storm and be used by those who love storms. Or bind yourself to my rusted machine and work among its teeth. Blood prices appear. On the return path, he sees his chest burst in an alley plague and warp ripping out, killing a town. On the free path, he sees himself die alone on a warp-tainted rock, howling while gods laugh. On the servant path, he sees himself die in a small hab, sitting in a chair, gun on his lap, lungs finally failing, hearing distant war drums still beating. In that last picture, someone knocks on the door and calls, "Inquisitor Morgan." There is fear and trust in their voice. Arthur stands in the empty place and thinks. He thinks of John and Abigail and Jack, of the gang, of the mountain, of all the things he already lived. He knows the pull of that path, to go back, to try again, to see their faces in flesh, not memory. He also thinks of the girl in Deceleum, the manufacturing workers, the small axe he saw in the Emperor's mind, the way the galaxy is always on fire, and how easy it would be to tell himself he could put it out alone. He knows that pull too. Pride, the outlaw riding wherever he wants, answering to no badge. He knows what that did to Dutch. "I ain't him," Arthur says softly. "I ain't Dutch. I ain't you either," he adds to the vast mind. "But I seen enough to know one thing. When a man's hurt people, he don't get to spend the rest of his life just trying to fix his own story. He owes." "Owes who?" the mind asks. "Me, them, yourself." "Folks," Arthur says. "All of them. The ones I wronged and the ones I never met. You say the only coin that matters is choice. Well, I choose to work. Not for my own sleep at night, for theirs, even if they never know my name." He takes a breath. It hurts. He takes it anyway. "So I'll take your chains," he says. "Sanctioned, servant, whatever you call it. But I got a line. I'll follow orders that hurt me. I'll even sign off on burning places when there's truly no other way. But I ain't pulling a trigger on kids who ain't done nothing yet. I ain't burying the truth to make some governor feel clean. I ain't stopping seeing all these people as people, even when I have to send them to die." The light presses in. "Chains are not a bargain," it says. "They are necessity." Arthur sets his jaw. "Then maybe you picked the wrong outlaw," he says. "Because I ain't walking into hell for you if I can't carry even that much of myself. I'm done being a man other men use up. If I'm yours, I'm still me. Otherwise, shoot me where I stand." There is silence. For a moment, he feels very, very stupid, shouting at a mind that could crack a planet. Then slowly, the pressure eases. "You are stubborn," the mind says. "It is not displeased. Good. I have many obedient tools. I need a few that bite my hand if I reach too far." He feels something settle around his arm and lungs. Not a full healing, not a cure. Chains of light around chains of rot. Limits. "Here are your terms," the mind says. "You will serve under the seal of the Inquisition, answerable to their councils and through them to me. You will take no oath to any single lord or world. You will go where rot and fracture are deep, where my other tools are too blunt. You will have the right to demand one chance at mercy in each purge, one focused attempt at rescue or evacuation before fire falls. No more." Arthur nods slowly. "One chance is more than none," he says. "You may refuse an order that breaks this line," the mind goes on. "Once. A single refusal in your whole remaining span, without punishment from my law." Arthur blinks. "That's all?" he asks. "That is more than most get," the mind says. "Choose when to spend it well. After that, if you refuse again, you act against me. Then you will be treated as any traitor." He nods. "Fair," he says. "Your power," the mind says, and tightens the light on his veins. "You may slow time in small bursts as before, at the cost of pain and years. You may once more in your life perform a great wrench such as you did with Gurak. When you do, it will kill you. That is your last bullet. Do not fire it for yourself. Arthur swallows. One big trick left, he says, and it goes to someone else. To a moment where many lives hang by a thread, the mind agrees. You will know it when it comes. If you spend it early for anything less, you will die knowing you wasted your last coin. He lets that sink in. Last, the mind says, you will not be worshipped. You will not found a cult. Any who raise your image in my stead will be corrected. Images of his face on walls burn away. That suits me fine, Arthur thinks. I ain't made for statues. Something touches his chest. He looks down. On the worn leather of his vest, over his heart, a mark burns into place. It is simple. A small 8-pointed star like the one on an old sheriff's badge, crossed by a narrow iron eye of the Inquisition. Behind them both, faint and ghostly, the double-headed eagle's wings spread. His arm glows once, then settles. Green veins now form a rough aquila shape under his skin, its wings spreading across his forearm, its body around the old sickness. Gold lines bind it in place, a sign and a leash, the mind says. To those who know, it shows what you are. To those who do not, it is just a scar. Arthur touches the mark on his vest. And my hat, he asks, soft. There is the faintest hint of amusement again. Keep it, the mind says. A man needs shade in this light. The empty space fades. He is back on the narrow bed, sweating, breathing hard. His vest smokes faintly where the mark lies burned in. His arm aches, but the glow is steady now, not wild. The door opens. Varro Hale stands there, flanked by a custodian and a sister of silence. Cassian waits behind them, helm in hand. Galeen peeks around his bulk, worry on her face. Well, Varro asks, the throne does not always speak plainly, even to us. Did you see what path is asked of you? Arthur swings his legs over the side of the bed and stands up, slowly. Yeah, he says. I saw. He wants himself a deputy. Not a saint, not a free gun, something in between. He taps the new mark on his chest. I'm your man, he says, for as long as this worn-out body holds, under some rules, with some teeth left. Varro looks at the mark. His eyes widen just a little. The Outlander mandate, he murmurs. I have never seen its like. A roaming, sanctioned agent, bound, but with such clarity. Cassian steps forward and clasps Arthur's good shoulder. Welcome to the war proper, Arthur Morgan, he says. You asked to not waste what you had left. The throne listened. Galeen smiles, eyes bright. I will pray for you, she says. Not that you do not bleed, that when you do, it means something. Arthur smiles tiredly. That's the only prayer worth saying, I think, he says. Outside, Terra's sky rumbles over a throne that has not moved in 10,000 years. Inside, a dying outlaw adjusts his hat and walks out to meet his orders. Word travels, as it always does. In Daesalium, months later, a little girl in a hablock hears a story from a tired guardsman on leave. There was this man, he says, not a space marine, not a priest, just a skinny, sick fella with a hat and a mean gun. They say he fell from the sky when the cult first hit. They say he slowed time around a plague lord and helped kill him. Now he goes where the Inquisition points him. If he shows up in your district, you know things are real bad. But you also know someone will try, at least once, to get you out. The girl's eyes are wide. Does he win? She asks. The guardsman shrugs. He ain't dead yet, he says. That's something. High above another world, an Eldar Farsha watches skeins of fate. She frowns at a new, faint line, green and gold and brown, that weaves through several possible futures. cutting some and tying others. It is too small to change everything. It is just annoying enough to ruin perfect plans. Monkey, she mutters, annoyed, and shifts her runes. In the garden of Nurgle, something sulks. The god of rot is vast and slow and rarely angry. Loss is just more compost to him. But one of his lesser servants, a shade of the Mirror Arthur, broods on a rotten log. He should have been ours, the shade wheezes. He fits us. Nurgle chuckles, a sound like thick soup boiling. Do not fret, little bud, he says, voice like warm mud. He is not done yet. His body rots. His heart aches. He walks among my favorite toys. He will spread my gifts even as he fights me. And when he finally falls, his regrets will taste all the sweeter. The shade brightens at that. On a warship of the Angel's Penitent, Cassian kneels in a small chapel. He sets a worn hat on the altar for a moment, then takes it back with care, as if it belongs to a friend, not him. Watch over him if you will, my lord, he prays. And if you will not, then at least watch what he does. There is something to learn from a man who was damned and still walks toward the fire. On a cold world at the edge of nowhere, an orc war boss hears a story about a human who stops time and shoots faster than any gun. His red eyes gleam. I was going to find him, he says. If he's that fast, fighting him's going to be a right proper scrap. His boys cheer. Somewhere, a new problem for Arthur loads a ship without knowing it. And Arthur himself. He sits in a cramped lander slicing through a grey sky toward yet another hive on yet another world. Voss sits across from him, now in heavier armour with her own scars and medals. Galeen checks her kit. Two new guardsmen whisper about the strange mark on Arthur's vest. Is it true he can stop bullets in the air? One asks. No, Arthur says. I just aim where they ought to be. They jump a little. He smiles, but not wide. The pilot's voice crackles in the cabin. 2 minutes to drop, Inquisitor Morgan, she says. Cult activity flagged in the lower levels. Possible demon incursion. Orders from orbit are to cleanse if resistance is strong. Arthur looks at Voss. There it is, he says. Our one chance. She nods. We make it count, she says. He feels the weight in his chest and arm, the small, steady power, the single fatal big trick he has left like a final bullet, sitting in a half-empty chamber. Not today, he thinks. Not yet. He pulls his hat down, checks his gun, and stands as the ramp starts to lower. All right then, Arthur Morgan, sanctioned outlaw of the Imperium, says to the war waiting below. Let's go see who needs saving and who needs shooting. The light of the Emperor and the shadow of the gods both watch as he steps out. Codex note. By decree of the Ordo Hereticus, under seal of Inquisitor Varro Hale, and with silent assent from the throne, the Outlander Mandate establishes Arthur Morgan as a bound, semi-autonomous agent empowered to exercise one attempt at mercy per sanctioned purge, and one terminal temporal breach in extremis, his life and death to be spent wholly in service of mankind's survival.